think you can get started.
Okay. Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Wilmette Housing Commission. Ms. McManus, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chase. I don't think he's on.
I'm on audio only. Yes.
Okay. And can you turn your video on?
I cannot right now because the invite did not have the Zoom invite, and I had to take my wife to an airport unexpectedly, so I'm sorry about that. But I will join as soon as I get home by video.
Okay. Miss McClure.
Here.
Miss Morganti.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shanahan. Miss Williams.
Here.
Miss Goldstein.
Here.
And Chairman Head.
Here. The meeting is being conducted via Microsoft Teams. For those watching the video in the future, the state of Illinois is currently under a stay-at-home order issued by Governor J.B. Pritzker due to the coronavirus pandemic. As a result, all in-person governmental meetings have been canceled. However, the Open Meetings Act now permits electronic meetings of governmental bodies like the Housing Commission, and this evening we are conducting our business in compliance with the state law. The meeting is being broadcast live on our local cable access channel 6. It is also broadcast on the internet on YouTube Live, and the URL for that is www.youtube.com/user/Village of Wilmette /live. To participate in the meeting, you can join through Microsoft Teams. Visit the Village's website at www.wilmette.com and find the calendar event for the Housing Commission meeting. There is a link for you to join the meeting. Alternatively, you can view the meeting on Channel 6 or on YouTube and call into the meeting, allowing you to listen and speak using your telephone. The phone number is 872-239-8225. Tonight's meeting code is 130-673-162 #. You may also submit your comments through YouTube Live and emails to comdev@wilmette.com. A member of the Village staff will read your comment to the Housing Commission. All comments to the Housing Commission will be recorded in the meeting minutes as we usually do. For meeting guests joining by Teams, when you are not speaking, please keep your device muted to minimize the disruption of the proceedings and your video turned off so that board members can be seen. It is quite a long introduction. Ordinarily, this board consists of 7 members. Tonight, however, due to some absences, is everybody present? I'm sorry. Everybody was present. Yes. Miss Roberts, as the assistant director, sits with us tonight in an advisory capacity only and is not a voting member of the board. Please be aware, therefore, that a vote in favor of an application will technically go on the record as a negative recommendation with the legal effect that I've previously described.
I think you could, that last part you could leave out because that was for the zoning board. Yeah, so okay. I think you're good. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So these last 2 paragraphs I can leave out?
Yep, yes. Absolutely.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Nice to be with you. So this is our first meeting, and I'm really happy to be part of this group. It's very honored to be asked to join this commission and look forward to getting to know everyone and solving an important challenge for our village. I think that the village has done a commendable job in working towards the goal of affordable housing over the last many years. And we're glad that this commission is being reconvened to address the challenge further. And with that, I would ask that I will introduce myself a little bit and then ask everyone else to do the same. So I'm Jeff Head. I joined this commission with roughly 28 years of experience in the affordable housing industry. Prior to that, I was an assistant to Mayor Daley at the city of Chicago. And for the past 20 years, I've worked for the Habitat Company, which is a development company in Chicago. And I've headed the group that develops affordable housing in Chicago and a handful of other states. And so that's the experience I bring to the group. I've had many meetings in front of different commissions and councils. So it's interesting to be on this side. And I think the experience that I have had over the years, I hope that it'll be helpful for helping drive consensus and coming up with a program that works for that allows Wilmette to continue to move forward in providing affordable housing. And with that, I would ask others to introduce themselves. Maybe Kate, could we go through the same order that we did the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Chase, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. This is Earl Chase. I also work in the affordable housing sector as an executive director for Heartland Alliance. I had the housing company, and we develop and build affordable housing in Chicago, in the Chicago area, as well as in Madison and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My experience in commercial real estate spans over 18 years, and I look forward to being an asset to the village in respect to affordable housing and helping Chairman Head accomplish the goals of the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner McClure?
I'm Lorelei McClure, and I am an advocate for affordable housing. It is not my professional, my money job, which is not now. I'm retired for 20 years, but I've been advocating for affordable housing in Wilmette. And even before I moved to Wilmette, I was with Interfaith Housing for the northern suburbs first, and then of course it's now Open Communities. And then I helped found and headed an organization called Wilmette Cares, which is now somewhat, it's informal, so we're not meeting regularly, but Lisa Braganza is now heading that up for us. And I'm sure she's going to be quite interested in what we're doing. I also live in affordable housing. I live in Gates Manor, and I'm very happy with the turn of events in my life that occurred. And it was just a happenstance that I'd been working in the area for many, many years. And I know that most recently, the advocacy has been with the Optima subsidy for affordable housing. And I am also working with Rob Anthony and hope to continue that. And I see it's one of our jobs, so that's a good thing. And I remember Jeff Head when we were doing some community meetings with HODC trying to get 1925 Central, and it was nice to hear you then and now to work with you. So I'm happy to be here.
My pleasure as well.
Commissioner Morganti.
Hi. My name's Alyssa Morganti, and I have been in the architectural design business for 40 years. And 33 years ago, started practice with my husband, Fred Wilson, and we specialize in residential architecture, multifamily, and single family. And we love what we do, and I love designing homes for people, and I really value what a home brings and gives to an individual in life. So we decided to start a foundation to raise money for affordable housing. We work very, very closely with SEPA, with Rob Anthony as well, and Amy Kaufman. And at this moment are quite interested in the CLT model, Community Land Trust model, but I'm really looking forward to learning more in depth about all the different opportunities to create affordable housing, and specifically in Wilmette, which is where we're focusing all of our funds and efforts right now too. I was on the Appearance Review Committee for 10 years, like from 2000, I think, to 2010. I don't know, it was a while ago. And I'm really excited about this adventure. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Commissioner Shanahan? I think you're having some audio issues. Is everybody here not hearing it?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. We'll come back to you. Maybe I'm not sure what. We'll give you a couple minutes and come back to you. Commissioner Williams?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Williams. I have been a Wilmette resident since 2007, and I've been sort of a housing utility infielder since 2004. I've kind of played all the different positions you can play as far as affordable housing. I've been on the development end. I have managed affordable housing. I worked for the Illinois Housing Development Authority for a short span. Decided state government was not the way I wanted to go. And currently, my focus is on housing for people with disabilities, community integrated, universally designed housing for people with disabilities. And I'm doing that through the IFF, which is a community development financial institution. And I'm happy to be here.
And then Ms. Goldstein?
Sure. Good evening. I'm Caroline Goldstein. I've lived in Wilmette for about 15 years, but I actually grew up in Wilmette, so this is my return to Wilmette to raise my own family. I am my background is in community development finance. I spent a good part of my career working in banking, providing bank financing for community development projects, including affordable housing. But for the last 15 years, I've worked for an organization called Local Initiative Support Corporation, which is a community development financial institution. We're a national organization, but my work is specifically focused in Chicago. Really excited to bring whatever knowledge I have around community development, affordable housing finance to this commission, but also really excited because I've spent my time here in Wilmette doing affordable housing advocacy work, both as a former board member of Housing Opportunity Development Corporation and through work that I've done with the League of Women Voters, working with others on our affordable housing advocacy work through the League.
Great. And then Commissioner Shanahan, did you want to, I see you re-entered the meeting. Do you want to try it again?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I am Ryan Shanahan. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and an honor to serve on the commission. I am a relatively recent Wilmette resident. We moved here last year. Graduated from Northwestern Kellogg's Business School in 2018. I've been working in the architecture engineering space really since graduate undergrad. Was out in Seattle working as a civil engineer, and then was fortunate enough to receive an opportunity to work for JDL Development in Chicago. I've been with JDL Development. We're a residential developer really for the last 7 years. My role has shifted over time from more of a construction role into a finance and underwriting. We're currently working on a 2,600 unit development right at really in the kind of the heart of the River North Gold Coast neighborhoods. That project is underwritten to have 15% affordable. 10% on site and 5% off. So we're intimately aware of the constraints that developers, maybe encounter with affordable requirements, but also how to overcome them. So I'm looking forward to bringing that perspective to the commission, as well as working together with fellow commission members and the community at large to create an effective policy.
Thank you. And I think that's everybody.
Thanks, everyone. The next thing on the agenda is new commission orientation, and so I will ask if would it be Kate to help walk us through this?
Jeff Stein, corporate counsel, is actually going to do a short presentation.
Oh, terrific. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. Chairhead, thank you very much. It's good to work with you again, different commission. I do know quite a few of you on here. We've had interactions in the past, all good. So that's always nice. I do want to go over some things that we don't like to tell you when you volunteer, because there are laws that now apply to you. We want to scare you off. So I got a short presentation that I'm going to try and share my screen here and make sure we get the right one. Can everybody see newly appointed official presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this is just a primer of laws that now apply to you that didn't before your appointment, or maybe didn't if you were on the plan commission, as Chairhead was. And so just want to go over these, and this is meant to be kind of a make you aware of these. There's no way that I can go over every nuance under these laws and that you would stay awake for that entire time. So we're going to try and make it quick. And then, of course, I would like for you at any point, you can always reach out to Kate or John Adler or myself directly if there's ever any questions or concerns of things that come up.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I can't see your screen. Does anybody have any idea of how I might see if I'm doing something wrong?
Let me try and stop sharing, and I'll try and start it again.
I saw your initials. That's it. Pop up, not the content.
Let's try one more. Let's see if we can get it back here. Okay. All right, everybody seeing it now?
Yeah, now I'm seeing it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So there are 4 main laws that will apply to you now as appointed officials of the village. The Open Meetings Act, which most of you are probably well aware of, especially with your past volunteering on the commissions and boards. If you are not muted, would you mind please also muting yourself right now? And if you have a question, of course, you can interrupt. And then the Freedom of Information Act is another component that we're going to discuss how it does apply to you, especially when we're in an actual active meeting. The Gift Ban Act now applies to you as appointed officials, and prohibited political activities is under the Ethics Act. So we're going to go over these briefly. And again, it's meant this is meant to be just a primer and to spark some knowledge in case something does come up. But for every nuance or any other specific factual cases that do come up, please reach out to me or reach out to John or Kate, and they will probably come straight to me. All right, so the Open Meetings Act essentially deals with meetings and public meetings of public bodies. You are a public body, and you are basically a subcommittee of the village itself. And as such, you can have meetings now, but you have to have them under certain rules, which we're going to go over. A quorum for the 7 members here is 4. Obviously, that's just a straight majority. And a majority of a quorum is 3 members. So that's important to know about when we get into when people can discuss things and when they cannot. General rules. So all meetings are required to be public, and they must be held under specific times and places. In this case, obviously we're doing this via Teams electronically. No meeting can be held on a legal holiday, except if that meeting is regularly scheduled. The Housing Commission does not have a regular scheduled meeting, so you can never hold a meeting on a holiday. The holidays are listed under the Bank Act, and they include things that you would not necessarily get a day off of work for, but like Columbus Day and other holidays like that, and Veterans Day and Memorial Day, they are all covered. Meetings must be noticed, and this one is. There's an agenda that everybody has been made, everybody has received a copy of, and it's also posted on our website. And then it has to be done at least 48 hours prior to the beginning of the meeting. And a quorum must be physically present. Okay, obviously not during a pandemic because the state legislature has allowed that to be no longer a requirement. There is a bill before the House right now making that a permanent removal of that requirement, but it's not passed yet. So this is unique. It is the first time in 15 years that we've ever been able to do something like this, but it's been working pretty well. No final action can ever take place unless that matter is on an agenda. It's been motioned and seconded, and then there's a positive vote. That means at least 4 members have voted in favor of something. These do not apply to, obviously, to continue things or procedural motions, but these are to make recommendations, to spend money, things along those lines. And under the Open Meetings Act, the public has a right to make a comment on any subject matter that they wish under certain rules. Our rules that we have under our village code is people are allowed 3 minutes to make a comment during the public comment portion of the agenda. What we also allow is obviously people to make comments during on the agenda specific issues during that discussion. Everybody is still subject, obviously, to being acknowledged by the chair. So there is a orderly meeting that takes place. Not everybody can just talk whenever they want. There is a time and place for that. We are in the electronic age. So things such as emails and texts become a bit of a problem. So a majority, under the Open Meetings Act, a majority of a quorum of the public body cannot discuss public business outside an open meeting. That's 3 of you. Any 3 of you at any time cannot discuss public business. Now, obviously, if you're going to get coffee, the 3 of you are getting coffee, you can't talk about housing commission related materials. But now what happens with emails and texts and Facebook Messenger and things like that? They should not be used to discuss public business in any way, shape, or form. Except for you to communicate directly with your staff liaison. It is not ideal to have emails going back and forth about public business, even when it's only 2 of you, and we're going to get to the reason why under the Freedom of Information Act. But if you do have concerns, if you have scheduling issues, or if you just want to raise something on an agenda, that's why we have staff here. Staff is not part of the quorum. We are exempt from that, and we do not have to apply to those rules. Because we don't vote on anything either. But we are here to facilitate all your needs to make sure that we get the things done that you want to get done. So electronic communication could be a contemporaneous communication. So far, the Attorney General has said it is, but a court has not. Rule of thumb, though, chat meetings clearly are, and text is usually contemporaneous. But the one thing I want you to walk away from here is just don't have any kind of communications on any electronic medium whatsoever about public business with each other, even if it's just 2 of you. If you absolutely have to if you absolutely have to send something to everybody, this is the way to do it. This is also the way that staff will do it. We will send an email with blind copying everybody. We're not being sneaky about it. We will say that all elected appointed officials are BCC'd on the email. What this does is that this basically takes away the contemporaneous discussion component, because even if you reply all, it only goes back to the sender, and it can't go back to more than 1 person. So this is the fail-safe, and you will see this a lot from whether that comes from a note from my office or the manager's office, or you'll probably see it a lot from your staff liaison. During a pandemic, things have changed, right? The rules are now different. So members of the public body must physically attend all meetings except during a pandemic. Thank you, the legislator, for that. Unfortunately, we had to have a pandemic to get to this point. But so there's certain rules that have been put in place now by the state legislature, and there's a couple nuances to that are important. The village staff will ensure that everybody has a way to make sure that you have the ability to attend the meeting electronically and to have video and audio components to that. So the other thing is all votes must be a roll call vote. That's not necessarily true of an in-person meeting. You could kind of look around the room and see heads nod, and the motion to approve the minutes could be a voice vote. But under this, all votes must be a roll call vote. So the best practice is, and I want this to be done, and I know it's not done today, but it was someone was not able to, but is to have your video and audio as you're making a comment. If you are not able to have your audio, please just identify yourself at some point during that comment so it's on the record, because that is also a component of the new laws, that we need to know who it is that's making the comment. We don't want someone that's buried kind of yelling something from the peanut gallery when it's a board member or a commission member. That comment should be made public, and the public should know who is making it. So if you can't have your video on, it's not detrimental. It is obviously strongly recommended, but if you can't, you should and you must identify who you are before you make your comments and before you vote. So if there are issues, obviously staff is here to assist you with that. We've been doing this now for almost a year, and it's working pretty well, and we've gotten pretty good at it, I think. Training, one thing you must do one time, you must complete training within 90 days of your appointment. Fortunately, it is only one time. Other people have to do it every year. It is not a difficult training and is not meant to pass fail. It's just meant to teach you. And I believe you've already gotten an email from Karen Norwood about that training. If you have already completed training for another commission or something, that's fine. Just make sure if you have that certificate or we have it on file, we can use that. Otherwise, please take it again. It'll take you 25, 30 minutes. And it's actually quite informative, and it's a little bit more detailed than this presentation. So shifting over to the Freedom of Information Act. Freedom of Information Act, it's kind of a weird name because it's not necessarily about information. It's really about documentation. So it allows any person, whether they're a resident or not, whether they're a citizen of the United States or not, to obtain access to basically full and complete documentation regarding the affairs of the government. And that's the state government, that's county government, that's the park district, and that includes the village, including things that come out of this commission. All records are presumed to be open. There are things that are exempt, and there's privacy concerns that are often told that we will not share. That's authorized under the law, but let's just always assume that things are going to be public. So again, it applies to documentation, not necessarily information. It does not require us to create a new document. If someone says, I want all this information and I need you to create this document, we're under no obligation to do that. But if we have that documentation, we must turn it over. So there's a point where OMA, the Open Meetings Act, and FOIA collide. And that's the new note passing, right? When you used to get in trouble in school passing notes. It's the emailing and texting during the open meetings. And it creates its own set of unique issues that really just make it easier to never do that, right? And there's no reason to ever text. There's no reason to ever email each other during a meeting. And in fact, it is probably best to not email or text anyone about anything that's to do public during the meeting, because you are now considered during this meeting to be operating on behalf of the public. And although you're not an employee, now you're subject to all that information being disclosed. And the PAC, that's the Attorney General, they have determined that you might have an email and text on your personal device, and that's still a public document that could be subject to FOIA. A court has said essentially the same thing, and requires the village to reach out to you and say, do you have anything under your personal texts, your personal emails under this? So it's obviously a good idea to not do so, especially during a meeting. But there's also some best practices and some things we can do, and some things you can't stop, such as someone emailing you things about the public business and about this meeting. So the first thing is, though, you can curtail a lot of this by just not using email to discuss public business. The staff liaison, as I said earlier, will be the point person for all kinds of communications, scheduling, what goes on an agenda, what's going to be set forth, and they work directly with the chair of each commission and each board to make sure that everybody's desires and needs are at least discussed and brought forth. But if you receive an email on your private account, which you might and likely will, immediately forward that to a staff liaison. Immediately say, I got this today, just an FYI. That way it's on our village server. It's on the Wilmette server, and we don't have to then ask you if you've got anything else. You could say, I've already given it to you. And that happens at every level, including village board members do that all the time. And if you're going to reply, which you want to be polite and reply, I'm fine with that. Just keep it short and make sure you CC the staff liaison as well. Again, that way we don't have to ask you anything. We already have the communication if it ever has to be disclosed under FOIA. Another good thing though is that, and it's not really on the slide, is that your private email address is private and it will not be shared, at least without your permission, to anybody asking for any information. So that's FOIA. That's very, very high level FOIA. But the thing to take away from that is I don't want to have to have you subject to a subpoena to turn over your cell phone. That's the last thing anyone wants. There's a lot of private information on there. So simply just don't use it for public business. The Gift Ban Act. This is now we're going into somewhat ethical and criminal territory, and there's not going to be, I don't think, a lot of issues that will ever arise at this level. But obviously, these laws are put into place to make sure that people are not given gifts for certain votes in their favor or things like that. So an officer, and that includes appointed officials, or an employee such as myself of a governmental entity, is prohibited from either soliciting or accepting a quote-unquote gift from a quote-unquote prohibited source. This does not apply, and we're going to go over that a little bit, to your neighbor that you've been friends with and lived next to for 25 years, or your sister-in-law that wants to give you a Christmas gift. That's not what this is about. So a prohibited source is really someone that wants to seek any kind of action from the Housing Commission in this case, or wants to do business with the village or with the Housing Commission, something about that, or who conducts activities regulated by the Housing Commission, which you will have some regulatory authority, at least recommendation authority as well. So these are the kind of things that we want to make sure that people are coming to you. They have every right to ask you for these things, but they don't have any right whatsoever. In fact, it's a crime to say, and here's a gift, and we're going to go over what a gift is, but a gift is a gift. This essentially applies also to any agents on behalf of someone, a spouse, an immediate family member who's living with them. So, if person A really wants the Housing Commission to vote on something one way, they can't send their adult son over with a checkbook. A gift basically is any gratuity or discount for entertainment or hospitality, anything of monetary value. It can be actual cash, and it could be tickets to a White Sox game. I usually put in here that Cubs tickets really don't have a value. Sorry. So that's important to kind of remember that. So if anybody's ever trying to give you anything, the answer is no, I'm sorry, I can't take it. Now, there are ways, if you do accidentally or take something, there are ways to cure that. There is a cure for the Gift Ban Act, and that's essentially to donate that item to somebody, return the item within a very short period of time, or donate something of similar value as a write-off, essentially. So, Prohibited Political Activities Act. This is one that's going to come up. It comes up for every election, whether it's a municipal election that's going to happen in another month or two, or another month, or if it's a federal election for president. Political activity, while you are acting as an agent or as a commissioner for the village, is illegal. You cannot commit or you cannot perform any such activity. That's any kind of campaigning for any public office, and that includes referenda. That includes whether you want to be for or against a referenda. That's anything that you can think of politically. I'll give you the example that I always give is that there is a state of Illinois worker received a invitation or an announcement, not an invitation, but an announcement of President Obama's second inauguration and celebration that was going to also be here in Chicago. And that person used their @illinoisgovernment.com email address to forward that to other people and saying, hey, let's go to this thing. And I'm really excited that the president won again. That may not seem very political, but it is because of the nature of what it was, a political rally. That person was found to be in violation of the law and was fined, I think, $250, but still also had on there just that scarlet letter of you are now deemed to be unethical under this law. It's important to note that this doesn't matter what election this is. It's federal, state, local, a referenda, park district, library district, dog catcher, anything. So Just keep that in mind. Now, one thing as an appointed official that's important for you is that you're not banned, and neither are employees or village board members from conducting their First Amendment rights to go out and campaign on people's behalf. You just can't do it while operating as a village appointed official, as a village official. So that's really two things for you. That's obviously anytime you're in a meeting or anytime that you're doing something on behalf of the village. If you're going to the opening of HODC once that's constructed, if you wanted to go there, and the ribbon cutting or something, you're operating on behalf of the village there, presumably as a housing commission member. You can't also then be on your phone saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to give $25 to this other political candidate right now." The other thing you cannot do is use village resources for anything like that. You can't come in and say, I need a couple envelopes because I want to mail out, I want to put out a mailer on behalf of my favorite candidate right now. Thanks for the envelopes. You know, they're 5 cents each or 2 cents each, but that's still illegal because it's a village, it's a public, basically a public resource. Can't use the copy machine for things like that. Not that this would ever happen, but I just want to make sure that that's clearly stated. So with that is my last slide. I don't really have anything more. I do want to reiterate that if you ever need anything, or if you ever have any questions, please, you can contact me at any time. You can also contact Kate or John, who always know how to get a hold of me. But I work at Village Hall. I'm there, you know, almost all the time, whether physically in person or remotely. And I'm happy to help in any way I can. And then that includes also just to get whatever information or whatever agenda items you want to accomplish that you might need a legal review on. I'm here for the entire village. That includes you guys. So with that being said, I'm concluded, and I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Head.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Next item on the agenda. Can people mute their? Next item on the agenda is a presentation on affordable housing in Wilmette, kind of going through the history since the state created affordable housing or a housing plan requirement on villages and municipalities. So I would ask that Kate or Lisa make that presentation. Thank you, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Roberts, the Assistant Director of Community Development. I'll be helping staff the Housing Commission going forward. We have a presentation prepared for you that was given to the village board last summer. A copy of this was in your packet, as was the memo that goes along with it. I'm trying to share my screen and I'm not sure it's working.
We can see it now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Going to run through this. Feel free to interrupt me with questions. Kate and John are also very knowledgeable about this stuff, so you guys are invited to jump in as well or answer questions. We're going to talk about the history of affordable housing in Wilmette, and then the village's affordable housing plan. The activity in affordable housing in Wilmette since the plan was adopted in 2004, 2005, and then the housing assistance program and housing our own Wilmette. Some of you have been around for a while and know the history as well as staff does, or perhaps better. So I apologize if we'll be covering some old ground, but hopefully there'll be something for everybody to take away from this. Affordable housing sort of began in earnest in Wilmette with the construction of Gates Manor in 1976. This is a 51-unit apartment building for those age 62 and older at 1135 Wilmette Avenue next to the depot. I think Lorelei said she lives here. Then in Shoreline Place in 1984, that's a 43-unit apartment building across the street from the CTA station for those 62 and older and those with disabilities. And then the Village Green Atrium was converted to senior condos in 1985. That's 35 units, 25 one-bedroom and 10 two-bedroom, also for those age 62 and older. From 1985 until 2005, when Mallinckrodt was done, we did not have any affordable housing development projects built. And related to that, from 2005 to 2015, we did not have any multifamily developments. We had a spate of townhomes at the end of the 1990s, but that was about it. As was mentioned a little bit earlier, we have the HODC project at 1925 Wilmette. That is our first affordable housing development that is for those who are low income without any condition on age or disability. Changing direction a little bit to talk about the Affordable Housing Plan. In 2003, the state passed the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act, and this act required non-home rule municipalities with less than 10% affordable housing to adopt an affordable housing plan by April 1st, 2005. Under the state's act, affordable is defined as 80% of the area median income for owner-occupied units and 60% of area median income for renter-occupied units, individuals. The act provided a choice of 3 different goals to achieve affordable housing compliance. Those choices were to make 15% of all new residential construction or redevelopment affordable, or you can increase the percentage of affordable housing from whatever the current level is, increase it by 3%, or you can bring your percentage of affordable housing up to the 10% of total housing stock. The village is a home rule community, and as such is technically not bound by the state act, but the village does have a longstanding commitment to affordable housing. And so in 2004-2005, the village created and adopted an affordable housing plan in compliance with what the state was calling for. The housing plan was included in your packet and goes into some detail about sort of the methodology and rationale behind it. The plan that was ultimately adopted called for the goal of making 15% of all new residential development or redevelopment consist of affordable units, affordable housing units. And as is explained in the plan, that was to be accomplished by looking at new multifamily buildings. It was deemed not really practical to have that goal associated with single family housing or townhouses. Again, we just don't have that many units at one time where those set-asides would be feasible. So we asked developers doing multifamily to consider including at least 15% of their units to be affordable within that plan. You may have heard otherwise, but based on the requirements with the state law, the village has been substantially in compliance and continues to be in compliance with the state act. So as laid out in our plan to meet that 15% goal, the plan identifies sites where multifamily could be developed. It includes incentives for development, such as using the PUD process, the planned unit development process. Affordable housing is a public benefit that can be provided through the PUD in exchange for other development relief. That is part of our zoning ordinance, as is the requirement for developers to meet with village staff to talk about affordable goals. We call it an affordable housing consultation, where multifamily developers sit down with staff, we go through the plan, we explain the affordability level and the 15% goal, and then there's a 60-day waiting period between that meeting and when they can file for a building permit or a variation or special use PUD, whatever their next step is in the process. Of the affordable housing units since 2004, we've had a number of multifamily buildings, and this table lays out how many units of those how many multifamily units were created versus how many affordable units within those developments. I might skip to this screen. So Mallinckrodt in the Park at 1041 Ridge Road was approved in 2005. There's 81 condo units there. Of those 81, 12 are affordable. The building currently is 55 and older, not 62. That was a change that was made subsequently. This is the development of Mallinckrodt in the park was an exciting sort of grassroots effort. There's a little bit more about that in the memo, but it's a really good sort of feel-good story about a lot of interests coming together to save the property and to save the building. The residents of Wilmette at 611 to 617 Green Bay Road is a relatively new apartment building. There's 75 market rate units. This also had a history of association directly with the village, and so ultimately affordable units were not included in the building, and instead the developer made an $80,000 contribution to Housing Our Own Wilmette. Next came Artist Memory Care. This was just completed a year or two ago. It's not strictly affordable housing per se. It's obviously a care facility, but through the PUD process, they agreed to make an annual contribution of $10,000 to Housing Our Own Wilmette. In a different tack, we have 1121 Greenleaf, which is 16 apartment units. This building was built by right. They did not need any relief, no PUD, no variations. So after their consultation period, they were able to move forward with building permits. They did not provide any affordable housing units. On the other hand, then, it's Cleveland Place at 1925 Wilmette Avenue. This is 16 apartment units that's going up. They've got the foundation going in right now. As I mentioned, this is going to be just very low income households, not limited to seniors or those with disabilities. So this building itself is 100% affordable rather. And then finally, we have the Optima building at 1210 Central Avenue. This project recently was approved last year through the PUD process. It is a market rate building, apartments, 109 units. Again, it wasn't really feasible to provide affordable units within the building. So instead, the developers are making a $1.6 million contribution, and they're going to be working with SEPA to create 14 permanently affordable units elsewhere in the village. Skipping back a little bit to the requirements of the state and the housing plan. When the requirement was originally laid out in 2004, 2005, the state provided us with their calculation, their methodology of how many affordable units the village had, all the villages had. IDA, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, is responsible for pulling these numbers and sort of monitoring compliance with the plans over the years. In 2013, that was the first year that they did an update of the numbers, asking for people to update their plans if applicable. And again, they issued a recalculation in 2018. They're going to be doing that every 5 years going forward. In 2018, the most recent calculation that we have from them, we lost 125 affordable units since the original calculation in 2004. But since the 2013 calculation, we had a net total of 43 affordable units being added. This is an interesting area to look at because while the plan clearly emphasizes the creation of affordable units, it does not doesn't give any recognition to maintaining those units, which is obviously the lion's share of where our units, such as they are in existing units that we really should be protecting. You can see on the right where our current percentage is relative to some of the other communities in the area. Changing gears a little bit to talk about the Housing Assistance Program and Housing Our Own Wilmette. Again, the Affordable Housing Plan and the Act focus on creating actual units. The village has historically been very successful taking sort of a different tack with the Housing Assistance Program. This is pretty unique, and it's really, I think, a pretty great thing. In 1979, the Housing Assistance Program was created, and it provided and still provides monthly rent and mortgage assistance and property tax assistance to heads of household 62 and older or disabled. There's an income limit, and one needs to be a resident for a minimum of 2 years. The rationale at the time and continues to be, that folks had lived in the community for a long time, paid their taxes, raised their family, and there was some recognition of helping those folks to continue to stay in the village and giving them some assistance now. Originally, the program was funded through the village's general fund. In more recent years, after the turn of this century, the program was funded through development agreements and zoning fines. Those were not necessarily consistent sources of income, and so a couple of years ago, the program was transitioned out of the village and into a nonprofit, Housing Our Own Wilmette. So currently, Housing Our Own Wilmette provides assistance to 18 Wilmette residents. While the program had been part of the village, there had been a limit on how much money we could spend, and sometimes there were people who couldn't be served. But since 2018, through Housing Our Own Wilmette, the program has admitted 7 new participants, and there's currently no wait list. Another benefit under Housing Our Own Wilmette is that the monthly assistance increased in 2019 to $225 a month. Also in 2020, the organization was able to provide a one-time supplement in the amount of 3 additional months of assistance to all the folks in the program, based on the needs that were apparent because of the pandemic. At the end of 2019, the program had $264,000. The program, Housing Our Own Wilmette entity, does fundraising annually, so their source of money comes from donations that the community makes to it, as well as things like the zoning fines and agreements that still come in, as we talked about a little bit ago. There's also the Emergency Housing Assistance Program, which is funded through the village. This is still within the village's purview. This is an annual item of $3,000 per year, available for short-term financial housing needs. The most recent assistance that was given was for 2 applications in 2020. I believe one or both of them may have been pandemic related. And then finally, again, kind of changing gears here, the Housing Commission was recently reconstituted in part to help with the comprehensive plan rewrite, which is coming up. We're going to talk about the comprehensive plan probably more in future meetings, but just wanted to mention that one of the things that the commission will be asked to do is to look at not just affordable housing, but housing policy and goals throughout the village, that to update the comprehensive plan for that aspect, which is at least 20 years old and arguably a little more. The RFP for the comprehensive plan just went out recently, so probably maybe within the next 6 months, the Plan Commission will be starting that process, and we look for the Housing Commission, as well as other boards and commissions in the village, to focus on various aspects of the plan, hold public meetings. Hopefully we'll be having in-person public meetings by that time, and advise the Plan Commission and the consultant and ultimately the village board on changes to the comprehensive plan. And that is all I have.
Thanks, Lisa. Do commissioners have any questions for Lisa? There's a lot of information. I have a couple of questions just to talk about a couple of things that you raised. One of the goals that was set forth originally in the 2003 plan was to create new housing units through new developments. And the 2 most recent developments that of scale of more than 50, 60 units were the residences on Green Bay and the proposed Optima development. And the affordable housing assistance is pretty significantly different between the 2. One $80,000 contribution and the other over $1.5 million. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about the difference in approach, or what do you have any thoughts on the disparity between the 2 that you could share, or maybe John?
I could jump in on that. A big part of it was timing. And, the other thing which Lisa mentioned was the 611 Green Bay Road property. The village bought in part because we were involved in a lawsuit. We had a developer who originally got approval for a 50-some unit condo building that did have 15% affordable. They got approval. They actually opened up their sales, their sales space, and then there was, the Great Recession hit, and unfortunately that project went away, and with that, the 15% of affordable units in that project went away. That developer came back with ultimately a CVS drive-through, which quite frankly didn't work, and we made it clear to the developer. It ended up being denied. They sued us. The village settled out of court, ended up purchasing the property, and again, we're in the middle of a recession. One of the reasons the village purchased the property is the recently adopted Village Center Master Plan called for adding density into our downtown to inject some, vitality and livelihood into the downtown, and to provide hopefully more customers for the businesses, and the restaurants, and the services, and the shops. So it was a much different time. We actually went out. The first time we went out, we had four responses, 4 people who wanted to actually buy that property. One of them actually were willing to give us something of, didn't ask us to give the property away. That actually, that deal ended up falling through. That was a developer who was more interested in putting the entire or more of the block together. They weren't able to. We went back out. Again, very limited interest. People were willing to give us what we paid for it, but it was going to be a 7-story building or an 8-story building. So, here we were at this time, maybe slowly coming out of the recession, but we were in a recession. The desire was to see an increase in density. That was important. The desire was to get the sales price, or what we bought it for, off the village's books, and that's when M&R, the developer, was brought through the process. And while $80,000 compared to obviously what Optima at the 1.6 is a lot less. $80,000 does do a lot of good when it comes to programs like Housing Arrow and Wilmette or the Housing Assistance Program. And for the short term, we felt that, we were getting something positive out of it. Fortunately, things turned around. Land has more value now. And, we had Optima come in and want to develop the International Bank site. And from staff's point of view, we were really excited, and we did put them in touch with SEPA and other organizations like that. But we were very excited with the idea of that model coming to Wilmette, and we knew of them from before. We were talking about talking with SEPA before that, and as Commissioner Morganti mentioned, we had been talking to her and Fred Wilson, her husband, about their ideas for that same sort of trust model in the village. So when we had the opportunity to get what is equivalent to about $100,000 per that 15%, the number of units, that's the direction we ended up going with that particular development. But the disparity in the funding for affordable housing is timing, ownership, just a whole bunch of things that with M&R project didn't allow us to maybe get the affordable housing we would like to have seen.
Thank you.
May I ask a question, Jeff?
Please.
So, John, can you give us an update on the Optima donation? I want to make sure I just understand how it's structured and the timing. Is that donation going from the Optima developer to SEPA directly, or coming through the village? And what's the timing on that?
It will go through the village. It's when they pull their building permit.
Okay.
They did just close on the property. So they own the property. International Bank has moved. They're going to be demolishing the property this summer, and we expect that hopefully the permit will be pulled this fall. One of the things you probably saw as an upcoming meeting we would love the Housing Commission to do is to have Rob Anthony from SEPA come talk to you. Not to say this is going to be the case, but if the Housing Commission felt there was a better way to provide affordable housing, then SEPA, the village, has the ability to do that. So it's not, again, from our knowledge of SEPA and what they've done in other communities, we like that idea, but it's great that we now have a housing commission with a bunch of different sources of expertise, and we're going to be looking for the input. If it is SEPA, probably, you know, how the units should be divided up. SEPA had an idea on, you know, the ownership and the rental and the percent of median income on both those items, and the Housing Commission will be asked to provide input on that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. The next item is approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, which was in 2015. So remember that wonderful night when, how do we do this one, John or Jeff?
Somebody could make a motion, somebody could second it. Kate will call the roll, and you'll vote on it. There doesn't have to have been persons in attendance at it. This will just send the meeting minutes to the village board for acceptance.
Okay. Do we have anybody want to make the first motion of the reconvened commission?
Everybody might be muted.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Was that Alyssa?
Yes, this is Alyssa. I make the motion to accept the meeting minutes from 2015.
I'll second the motion.
Can we do a roll call?
I'll call the roll. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. McClure? Sorry, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Morganti?
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Goldstein?
Yes.
And Chairman Head?
Yes. So the next item is to talk about a future meeting date. Are there any, I would suggest a date approximately a month from now. Is that what you were anticipating, Kate?
Yeah, probably in the next month or so. I guess the question is the commission, last time we sent out a doodle poll and asked for people's availability. Is that something we want to continue doing, or is it easier to select a date now and move forward with a more consistent meeting date? It's really up to the commission. We can do it either way, whatever is easier for everyone.
I think that if we get to at some point in the not too distant future, standing at least a night of the week, and that would work for people. If Tuesdays is a night that people could generally be available, maybe we could pick a second, or maybe I think that there's some.
It would have to, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. It would have to, the Plan Commission typically would meet on the first Tuesdays, the Village Board the second and fourth. So on a Tuesday, it would have to be the third Tuesday of the month.
Okay. Is that a time that anybody has an expected issue with on an ongoing basis?
No.
Okay. Well, let's pencil in the third Tuesdays then.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the only other sort of unusual thing during the pandemic, when we don't have to meet remotely, we could have 3 meetings at Village Hall in one evening. Because all meetings are now televised and broadcast, on Channel 6 and YouTube Live, you can't have 2 meetings at the same time. And but I think Tuesdays, the third Tuesdays of the month is typically a date that's fairly open.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be our starting point.
Oh, sorry, Karen.
The 20th is currently open.
Great.
I have a question. What would be the topic of our next meeting? Because when I think we were talking originally, perhaps Jeff, I think it was with you, or someone was saying like, because when I was on the ARC, of course, it was a monthly meeting, and someone was saying like, this isn't likely to be a commission where you're meeting every month. And I'm not putting up any roadblocks. I just want to know, like, what would the topics be when we don't have, so anyway, that's my question.
Do you want to take that, Kate? I mean, we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, so in the second memo that was provided in the packet, it's an overview memo. It sort of lays out the initial thought process for our upcoming meetings. So the idea was that the next meeting, we would really focus on the Housing Commission functions and priorities that were attached to the memo. The village board, when they reformed the commission, they identified certain priorities for the commission to focus on. So we thought the commission, before the next meeting, take a look at those priorities, see if the order that they're laid out makes sense moving forward, or if things need to move around a little bit for the commission to really focus on for the next 6 months or so. And then after that, we'll kind of dive more into discussion with the comprehensive plan. I know Lisa touched on that in her presentation, but we were thinking that that would be something possibly in the third meeting. And then hopefully we'll also have a representative from SEPA and from Housing Our Own talk to the commission at some point to talk more in depth about those programs. So that was sort of the thought starting out. And then after that, depending on the discussion on those next meetings, that'll kind of guide us moving forward.
And I do think that having a meeting every month is not necessary, and that's not what was expected. Depending on what would come out of the comprehensive plan, if the Housing Commission's asked to really delve into that, that might be a time in which you're meeting, a month after a month. But typically, the Preservation Commission, Environmental and Energy Commission, commissions like the Housing Commission meet, maybe 4 to 6 times a year. You'll probably meet a little bit more because you're new and you're kicking things off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the concept that I had over the next few months was really kind of uploading tonight was really focused on history. The next one was a little more on structure and kind of what the city or the village is asking us to do. And then a little bit about the resources. And so inviting in SEPA, inviting in Housing Our Own to talk about what they do and how they do it. And so try to kind of get a sense of what are the tools that we have now, what are our goals, and then if that takes 2 or 3 meetings, 4 meetings, from there we'll really have more of a path of what kind of longer term agenda that we want to have and how we go about doing it. But I thought for the first few meetings there was a lot to try and just get everybody kind of with a reasonably common set of understanding of what we're being asked to do and what are the tools that we have.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, would it be reasonable to have HODC come in and give us an update now that they have broken ground? I would like to know where they are.
I think that would be great. That's a wonderful idea. Any other questions, comments related to the next meeting or future meetings?
Yeah, I got a question, Jeff. In the presentation, it talked about the project at the Optima project. They paid 1.6 million for 14 units of permanent supportive housing. Where's that housing going to be built, or what are the?
Sure. And actually, the $1.6 million hasn't been paid yet because it's tied to them pulling a building permit.
Right.
So,
I remember you saying.
you know, we expect, and the location of that housing and the exact makeup of that housing, be it a rental unit or for sale single family home for ownership, single family home, hasn't been decided. That's going to be one of the things that when Rob Anthony from SEPA comes in, we'll talk with the Housing Commission. You know, if the Housing Commission through the Optima review process, SEPA did identify actual homes that would fit in their model, like I believe it was 3 or 4 single family homes that they would purchase for ownership and rental for between 80 and I think they went up to 100% of the median income on those, and then the rentals were at 60%. They looked at some condominiums and townhomes that they would be able to purchase, and it'd be in the trust model that then maintains those as affordable housing at those rates. But you as the Housing Commission will be involved in looking at that. There might be a decision that maybe less of the single family home product needs to be purchased, and you might be able to do more at 14 units, or you might decide you want, you know, more single family homes and it's less than 14 units. But what SEPA did was identify by looking at homes for sale during that review process and the monies that they would expect to get in matches from state or federal support, and you know, that's what they believe they could do with that money.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, the donation has been committed, and the donation goes to the city, or to the village, excuse me, and the village would designate it to SEPA, and basically that would be the starting point for our review. Is okay, so SEPA, you have these resources, explain your program and talk about kind of a strat, and then we would be part of the discussion for the strategy.
Absolutely, and I would also say, you know, that the money's coming into the village. While the SEPA was identified both by the village and by the developer as somebody who could come in and do these things we believe are necessary. You know, again, this is housing for persons regardless of age or disability. Doesn't mean you can't have some of these units for persons over a certain age or for a disability. But if the Housing Commission, in talking to SEPA, believes there's a different way that money could be spent that's better for the community, you know, absolutely, I'm sure the village board would listen to that. If the Housing Commission agrees that the SEPA, that model is what we would like to see, then you would be asked to talk with SEPA and, you know, the best way that money should be, you know, spent, where that money should be, you know, it's the village wants these units throughout the village. You know, the village board clearly wants to see some units close to downtown, some units near, you know, 4th and Linden, some, you know, units out west. So that's going to be input that the Housing Commission is going to be asked for.
Great.
And sorry to keep going on this, but I think that's one of the real exciting things about having the Housing Commission is when we have PUDs come in, you could be part of this discussion when the PUD is going through the process. It would have been great, to have the Housing Commission provide input while we were going through this. I don't think we lose anything because we still get the money and the Housing Commission gives input, but that's the type of thing in the future you're going to be asked to do.
Thanks, John.
So is this one last question, Jeff? Sorry. Is the policy already formulated? Kind of like it sounds very similar to like the City of Chicago ARO, where we're paying for developers that they contribute to a fund in lieu of creating the affordable housing within the property or project that they're building. Is that what we're doing, or is that formal, or?
Let me take a crack at it, and John can chime in. I think that one of the reasons I asked the question about the residences on Green Bay and the Optima was really just kind of the evolution of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on a negotiated basis, so that I think there's goals but not policies.
Okay.
And I think that part of the role is to come up with a little bit more shape to that going forward. Is that a fair statement, John?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is if we have a PUD come in on site A, B, some site, and they come in and they say that they only want to do it off-site, and here's what they would give. And if the Housing Commission feels strongly that that's not what we're looking for, they could make that recommendation to the Plan Commission, the Village Board. I will say, because of the Village Board's statements to Optima during that process, anybody who's come to us that's been looking to do multifamily, we've stressed that your best course of action is to come in with 15% in the building. That's what we heard from the Village Board, what they want to see. Or at least some units in the building, and we've made it clear to them that we now have a Housing Commission who's going to be asked to provide input on, how beneficial what we're getting out of this project really is.
Thanks, John. Earl, anybody else?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, great. Next item is public comment. Is there anybody who's watching and or listening that would like to make any comments or statements?
Actually, I'd like to say something. Mike Murdoch.
Sure.
As you may know, I'm a Park District Commissioner, but I'm here today because I'm a former president and a board member of Rebuilding Together. And I just want you to know that Rebuilding Together has worked on over 50 homes throughout the village over the last 15 years. And we are actively looking to support affordable housing in the village. And we'd love to partner or support the Housing Commission's efforts any way we can. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And maybe we would like to invite you in to talk a little bit more about that in one of the future meetings.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
And there were no messages on the YouTube chat that we could see.
Yeah, we have not received any comments or questions via email or YouTube.
Okay, well, I would just like to say that it's very exciting to be about to finish our first board meeting and to be talking to everyone. And thank you for patience with me. And does anybody have a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. McClure. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. That was Lorelei, or I'm sorry, not Lorelei.
Alyssa, yeah.
Alyssa, I'm sorry, Alyssa.
No and problem. Then I'll do a quick roll call again for everyone. Mr. Chase?
Here.
Ms. McClure?
Yes.
Ms. Morganti?
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Goldstein?
Yes.
And Chairman Head?
Yes.
Thank you.